So guys, I've just picked up my M4 from Sytner Solihull, where I dropped it off recently for the chassis restriction function error that came up, and I'm so glad that I've actually got my car back. So usually I get a fairly decent service from Sytner Solihull. I've been quite a long-standing customer of theirs. You know, bought a couple of cars from them in the past and always had my M4 serviced and whatnot from them guys, and you know, I can't really fault the service usually, but on this occasion I feel let down quite a lot. And it got to a point where it's actually been escalated to BMW UK as well, and I just want to share my experience with you guys on that. Now, my car was dropped off at 8 AM on the Friday to Sytner Solihull to have this issue diagnosed. I was told to bring it in really early on the day to avoid disappointment, and I didn't get any updates on the car in terms of, you know, work in progress or anything like that. So I rang them up about 3 PM just to kind of find out, you know, is my car ready to kind of be picked up. And the response I got from the service advisor, who at times felt like he was intimidating me, was, we haven't got the car in the workshop, it's quite a low priority work for us and we'll get it in as soon as we can. To which I kind of says, well, you've had the car since 8 AM. I was hoping that you'd get it in, diagnose the problem. If it requires any parts, you would have called me to approve that because the car's out of warranty, and you would have had the parts you know, delivered, because they usually get them on the same day basis, and I'd be able to get the car back picked up on the same day. Well, no sir, it doesn't work like that, is the response I've got. So I said, okay, so you know, what's going to happen now? So he was like, we can get you into a car if you really want us to. So I was like, well, I do need a car for the weekend. So they got me into the X2 M35Y, which meant I had to make my journey to the dealership and pick that up. No big deal. So they got the car diagnosed and they found a fault with the near side front damper, and I thought that it was going to be a sensor, and the sensor I was thinking that it was going to be was the vertical speed sensor, which is the one that's bolted onto, or you know, kind of connected onto to the side of the shock absorber, but it was the one that was on top of the shock absorber. So I think that's the one that's kind of built into the shock absorber, and in that instance they had to change the entire shock absorber. Now the service advisor said we would only change that one side because the fault is on that one, and had the car been under warranty, which it isn't, we would only change that one anyway. So he priced up the job, and it came to about £1,700 for the diagnosis, the time, the labour, the part. And I kind of thought to myself, well, for £1,700 you can pretty much get like a aftermarket coilover set or something like that. For £2,000 you might even be able to get like an old lines you know, coilover set for you know, for the F80, F82M 3M4. Well, that's a bit ridiculous for one shock absorber and whatnot. And we got down to a price below £1,000, which I was like, okay, that seems a bit more reasonable. I mean, I feel like I want to keep the car to a point. I don't really want to put coilovers on this car just yet, so I kind of thought, right, let's just leave it at that. So that was on Friday, late Friday afternoon. They ordered the part on a Monday, and I'm there thinking, right, the parts have arrived, and this guy's just pulled right out in front of me. So anyway, these things happen. So the parts arrived on the Monday, and there's me thinking, right, they'll get the car ready for me on Monday to pick up. But what's happened is they've actually ordered the wrong parts. So that's put the delay on the repair work again by a day. Then on Tuesday I get a call from the same guy, from the service advisor, to say, right, we've got the parts and we're about to install them. And I said to him, have you got the correct parts? And he's like, well, what do you mean correct parts? And I was like, well, you told me yesterday that you got the wrong parts. And he was like, oh, sorry, that was for another customer, we got the customers mixed up. I was like, what the hell's going on there? Then he's re-quoting me the prices, and now his prices are not matching up to what we agreed on the day before. So I'm like, what are you on about? You know, just tell me, how much is this job gonna cost me? Just give me a bit of confidence that, you know, we've got the right parts. So he's gone through all this paperwork and he's come back and he says, right, this is the price, which we did agree. These are all the parts that have come through, which was fine. And he says, right, we just need to get all of that done on the car. But we're now coming to the end of Monday, so we're now having to do the work on Tuesday. Fine, I've still got the X2 M35i, so I'm just going to be cruising around in that. Tuesday morning, they ring me up and he says, do you have a spare wheel locking nut? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And he's like, we can't get the wheel off. What do you mean you can't get the wheel off? The bolts have been over tightened. Right. So I says to him, literally a few weeks ago the car was in at the dealership having a brake discs and brake pads checked, and they had all 4 wheels off, and they sent me a Sytner vid showing me the car with all 4 wheels off. So if you were able to take all 4 wheels off at that time and then put them on, you don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to kind of figure out that who's over tightened the bolts. And then he basically says to me, is, do you approve any damage that we may cause to your car by pulling the wheel off? At that point I was like, are you having a laugh? Because how on earth am I going to approve you to damage my car? You know, a wheel is quite a simple thing to take off. If you've over tightened the wheels previously, well then any damage you cause, you know, taking them off, you will have to pull them off yourself, you know, and any damage that you cause pulling the wheels off, you'll have to sort out and, you know, rectify. Anyway, within like half an hour I get a call saying, right, the wheels are off, and you know, we've got the shock absorber, we're working on the shock absorber, you know, to put that back on and whatnot. So when I went to pick up the car that evening, because the car was ready, when I went to pick up the car, the sales advisor was there with his card machine ready to take the money off me without going through exactly what was done. And he was literally, you know, here's the bill, you know, on the back of a fag packet type, this is the amount that we agreed on, here's the keys, good evening sir, see you later. I was like, well, hold on a second, where's my invoice? Oh, I'll email that to you later. It's been a week now since I've picked up the car, and I've escalated this to the service manager and to BMW UK, and I've received the invoice today, which is good because it tells me what I've paid for. But when I picked the car up, I realised that when I was driving it quite spirited in, it's an M car, so in the M modes, and I'm doing like a right hand turn around, say a roundabout, it was really understeering, and it felt like the car was just pulling through like pretty much any undulations in the road, and it was kind of tram lining as well. And you know, I put up a little post on some of the BMW forums and whatnot, and everyone was saying, look, it's a wheel alignment issue. So I had the car booked in this morning, you know, at the Wheel Alignment Centre Birmingham, who I've used previously, and straight away they realised that the near side front tyre had quite a lot of toe in, which explains that. Now when I spoke to BMW, the dealership, they were like, no, we don't need to do a KDS wheel alignment because all we're doing is just removing and replacing a shock absorber. Well, when you're removing the shock absorber, you're taking off pretty much like, you know, the whole wheel up. It's not just a matter of like, you know, slipping it out without touching any other suspension components. It is quite a mechanical job, and you do have to, you know, unbolt a few suspension components to take that off. And I just didn't understand how they could justify not doing a wheel alignment. So, you know, it's my time again, going and using, you know, a third party, you know, garage to do like certain things which BMW should have done. And when I raised that with BMW, not UK, but when I raised it with the dealership, they were happy to pay for the cost of the wheel alignment. So I've just set my invoice for the cost that I've incurred, and hopefully, you know, they'll sort that out in a few days' time. I know this isn't the usual type of vids that I do, and I do apologise for this type of rant, but I do feel like I do need to share my experience with the dealership, especially like as I've been quite a long-standing customer of theirs, you know, in this form, and it really didn't inspire me with with any confidence that, you know, they're up to these kind of jobs. Like, they can't even unbolt a wheel, you know what I mean? That's like really like basic. So that was really annoying, and also like the service advisor, he just couldn't understand like what he was on about himself, and trying to portray a message over to a customer and give them like 3 different prices, 4 different stories, order the wrong parts. That's just pure incompetence, or you know, in my book anyway. But I'm glad I've got the car back. I'm glad that it's now straight as an arrow when you're driving and when you're pushing it around corners, which is always a good thing. So, you know, I suppose it's not all bad, but I would like to hear from you guys as well, if you guys have had some bad experiences or something along those lines as I've experienced with your dealerships as well. It's just something that you shouldn't experience or expect from a main dealer when, you know, you hand over the keys to your pride and joy. I do hope that, you know, you have found this video informative to a point. I know, like I say, it's not in the same format as I normally do my vids, because I'm usually a bit more enthusiastic about my car, but I'm hoping that you'll find my next vid a little bit more, you know, entertaining, and you know, hopefully you look forward to that, as again I'll be revealing my next car build, not for this one because I've already kind of thinking about the new M240i if I decide to kind of come out of this. However, my Macan Fs, there might be a replacement for that as well, so definitely stay tuned for that. Hopefully guys, I'll catch you on the next one. Take care, bye.